Welcome to the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor podcast, Laughbox. We have multiple hosts and multiple guests and multiple ways to think out of the box using humor.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.
Join us for episode 86 with Jim Bob Williams, James Figgy Hardwick, Katie B, and special guest, clean comedian, Dicky Hardwick. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, America! Actually, the whole wide world here. We're on the Laughbox, the podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. I'm Jim Bob Williams.
I'm Katie B.
And I'm Figgy, just sitting in.
And our special guest today is corporate comedian and a longtime champion of clean comedy, Dick Hardwick.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
It's a great pleasure to be here so far.
Thank you for joining us.
It's indeed my pleasure.
One question we ask everybody. We're the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We look at ways that people are using humor to solve problems. How do you use humor to solve problems?
Take, for instance, if I'm in line at a grocery store and I have a line, I'll try to make people happy by just turning around and saying to the checkout person, or of course, you have to know your audience. So you look behind you to make sure these people would be able to understand a funny line. And if I couldn't deliver something to make them laugh, at least I can make them smile. So there you go. And it brightens my day. I remember Figgy, Dad said to me one morning, he said, when you walk out the door, smile at that first person you meet because you might change their entire day. So there you go.
Nice.
Wow. That's a beautiful philosophy.
That is absolutely beautiful. And let's connect with the relationship going on here. You guys, Figgy and Dick, are brothers, correct?
Yes, indeed. I've got 9 years on him. So you see these lines up here? Those are, so I just turned 69. And so Figgy, are you 61 or 60?
I'm just 60 now, and I got a lot less hair than you do. How'd that work out?
So who raised who exactly here?
Figgy?
Well, Dicky was the one, he was there and gone by the time he was 18. So I got all of his crappy clothes, and I got away with murder.
Yeah, you did. When Brother Steve, Denny, and I took off, it was just you and Janet. And so, yeah, you had your own bedroom. I never had my own bedroom. I had slept in a bed with Brother Steve, and you and Denny were just a stone's throw away. And you guys would snore in 3-part harmony. And I would, first of all, steal Steve's pillow and throw it over in you guys to wake you up. And then I would throw mine over, and then I'd have to get up and go get the pillows and come back and start all over again. I was the oldest of 5. So Brother Steve and Brother Denny and I had been playing music since we were little. I started playing the drums when I was 9 and picked up the guitar. And so Figgy was 9 years behind. So he was barely out of grade school when we were taking off and going out on the road. So I always felt sorry for Fig because he never got a chance to be in kind of like the older clique of guys, where I was traveling around with guys that were at least 2 or 3 years older than me at the time. So he kind of got left behind there, but he certainly has made up for that in the times past with all of the stuff he's been doing, and especially this organization that you brought him into. So congratulations, Mr. Fig.
Thanks, man.
So what about this household with so much music and funny business going around in the house? Can you talk about your parents? Can you talk about that?
Well, Figgy, you want to chime in there, buddy?
Well, Mom, she was definitely the most humorous. She would just get so tickled she'd start crying at different things. And just, there was always humor. There was always music. There was always something going on at our house. And sometimes it was legal and sometimes it was illegal. It was all a good time.
Has the statute of limitations passed on anything that's illegal?
I think that you all have would agree that to get humor and to appreciate a good laugh, you have to be pretty sharp. And Mom was very sharp. She could see through everything. And just one of her favorite lines was, "I've upped my standards, so up yours."
Nice.
And, it's so that was her. She's just very, very on top of everything. So I still use, and Figgy uses one of Mom's jokes in our routines and the like. And so, I'll continue to keep using them because they're safe and they're good.
So when did you know that comedy was going to be a career, not just a pastime?
Everything to me kind of came as necessary. I loved playing the drums when I was a kid because our dad played string bass in a little combo on the weekends called the John Wood combo. And they had a piano. John Wood played piano, and he lived 2 doors down from us. They had 5 kids. So we kind of like were tied together family-wise that way. And of course, Dad, with 5 kids screaming and yelling at the house, he's trying to get out of the house on the weekend as well. So he would head to the VFW or the Legion or the Elks and be playing a gig. Well, that was pretty cool. Dad's famous. He's a musician in town. And when I would see their drummers' drums, my eyes would light up. And so I picked up the drums. So I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I started playing the drums in our little rock and roll bands. Our brother Steve and I had a group called the Hannibal and the Invaders. That was our first little rock and roll band. And in 6th and 7th grade, there's even pictures in a yearbook of me sitting there behind the drums. And I didn't like the dead air in between. We'd play a song, and then the guys would turn around and they would tune their guitars, or they were posing or the whatever, or talking to one another. And well, the audience is looking at us, so give us something. So I just started talking to the audience. I had no idea what I was going to say, but I started saying, just talking to the audience. And that kind of stuck with every group that I was in. I kind of became the spokesperson. So probably I was probably 17, 18. Our dad never really came to any of our concerts that we were doing, playing rock and roll music, because he came from the 20s and 30s and 40s, and his band played music from World War II. Well, when my friend Robin Hopkins, who passed last year, may he rest in peace, picked up the banjo, and we went to the Mardi Gras when I was 18 years old. Our aunt and uncle lived down in Kenner, so she said, "You're 18, the drinking age is 18, so you can come down to the Mardi Gras." And he took the banjo and I had a harmonica, and we went down on Bourbon Street and stopped a crowd playing the Saints Go Marching In, so big that they had to break up with horses, police on horseback. So we went, hey, there's something to this. And we had heard about Pete Fountain, the clarinet player who'd been on the Tonight Show many, many times, and famous clarinetist down in the French Quarter. He had his own nightclub on Bourbon Street. Robin, unbeknownst to me, went up and handed the guy $100. That would have been like, what, $5,000 now? And he put us
$100 in the 70s?
Yeah. He put us in the front row of Pete Fountain's nightclub. And when the curtain came up, Pete Fountain and his 7-piece Dixieland band brought the house down. And the drummer started playing off the drums onto the floor tom, onto the floor, and came around and was playing the drumsticks on the drink glasses in the front. And a light bulb went off in my head. I said, I can do that. And that was my first motivation to not only take what I was talking in between the songs, but actually stand up and start trying to entertain the audience that way. So that led to, we went back down to New Orleans the next year, and I just turned 19, and we just banjo and drums. We landed a gig in the French Quarter. And once again, when you only have banjo and drums, you better start coming up with something to say in between. And I'll never forget, Figgy, I don't know whether you know that we went down there to find fame and fortune. And our first deal was Friday, 4 hours, Friday night, Saturday, 4 hours, Sunday afternoon, 4 hours for $60 each, and all the beer we could drink. After the first weekend, the owner, his name was Jim Monahan, he said, let me redo my verbal contract with you guys, $60 a piece, and we'll support your beer habit. I guess we drank almost a keg of beer. There we were off and running, and we ran into a trio that was playing at the end of Bourbon Street at the Marriott called the Tin Rainbow Ragtimers. And the banjo player was pretty much the Buddy Rich of banjo at that time. He was could play the tenor banjo, the plectrum banjo, the 5-string banjo. And we became really close friends. And his drummer in his band got us a gig out in Colonial Beach, Virginia, at a dive that they had played the year before. So we took off. Here we are, just banjo and drums. And now we've got our first professional gig outside of New Orleans, and actually for $150 a piece a week. And Figgy, I don't know whether I ever told you, but Mom said, Dicky, you're bringing home more than your dad. So that goes to show you how little pay he was getting for, you know, he was in the beer business there. So, you know, and maybe he got paid in beer too. So matter of fact, I think he did.
So it's genius that you're the drummer in the act, because you can do your own rim shots, you know.
Well, I could do my own rim shots. I have done that in the past. Matter of fact, I wish I had a drum set right now. We ran into an old friend that my friend Doug Maddox, the banjo player, his piano player was tragically killed in a fire, and he was released to do whatever he wanted to do. I had gotten an audition for our little trio, and this guy was totally smashed. Came in one night. We were playing in a Shakey's Pizza Parlor down in Southampton, Virginia, and this guy was just got up and sat right in front of us. He said, "You guys should be on the Delta Queen steamboat." And I said, "Well, what is that?" He said, "It's an old passenger overnight steamboat that flows up and down the Mississippi and the Ohio River, and you guys should be on that." I said, "Well, give me a number." So next night he came in, he was just as hammered, handed me a number, and I called, and it was Betty Blake, the president of the Delta Queen Steamboat Company. She said, "We're looking for you guys to come in and audition in Cincinnati in 2 weeks." Well, we packed up and took off to Cincinnati, not knowing what was going to happen. We went on, we played about 3 or 4 songs. She said, "You're on. Your audition will be all the way to New Orleans and all the way back to Cincinnati. We're going to be professional musicians on the Delta Queen." And on the way back up the river, I came up on the levee, and the first mate at that time, Gabriel Chingary, who finally became the youngest captain on the Mississippi, said, "Dicky, the captain said he wants you to call Betty Blake in Cincinnati." And I went, "Oh my God, that means we're going to be fired." And I called up Betty Blake, and she said, "The band leader just walked off. You're now the band leader, and you have to play the calliope on the way out of Memphis." Did you ever play the calliope, Figgy? Oh, did you ever see me play the calliope? So I went up and kind of courted around and on the calliope. And so a lady came around the corner. She said, "I can't wait for calliope fun time when I get to play the calliope." I said, "Would you like to play it right now?" She went, "Could I?" Once again, the heavens opened up. And you know, the angels are walking all around us. They're all around us. My banjo player friend Robin decided he needed to take a couple months to go back and rehearse, which I couldn't afford to do that. And the Delta Queen had offered me an opportunity to come back on and be the interlocutor, master of ceremonies on the Delta Queen, playing the drums and basically being the MC. Mm-hmm. So there was a guy by the name of Vic Tooker, who was the most outrageously great riverboat guy, full of shtick, and I was able to get on his coattails and learn a lot of his shtick. Figgy, you know, the Night Before Christmas backwards, and the Tasmanian Garachi phone, and he will always say, "Tell the people what they want to hear." I said, "Well, that's not true." He goes, "You didn't hear what I said. Tell the people what they want to hear. Tell them how great this person is, or what they've done. They've been on movies, they've been in television, they've got Grammy. Tell them that this is going to be something great." So I always kept that in my hip pocket and would talk in between the songs and introduce. So that was kind of where I started really doing jokes to the audience, you know, limited shtick. So you see, it wasn't, I didn't wake up one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a comic." It's just, I had to kind of learn it while I was going along. And fortunately, I was making a living doing it. I had my guitar on board the Delta Queen, and it was owned at that time by a gentleman named Studman Hinckley. He was a very wealthy businessman in New York City. He owned Overseas National Airlines, which was a charter airline service over in Europe that would pretty much make their money from flying Muslims down to Mecca. And so he would offer anybody that was an employee on the Delta Queen a free trip anywhere in the world as long as it was on standby. So I went, wow, I would love to do that. I was going to go back on the Delta Queen as the band leader and the interlocutor, and I decided to go to England. Well, one night while we were playing at Joe's Bar, this guy with hair right down to his waist, and this would have been 1975 or 75. And for a guy to have hair that goes all the way down to his waist, he must have started growing his hair when he was, in high school. So it was really cool. That was a cool thing. A guy that had hair that long. Come to find out, he was the production manager of Earth, Wind, and Fire. They were in
Wow.
a big concert there in Cincinnati. And he just came in to, after the gig. And of course, we're playing Dixieland music, just a banjo, drums, and a guitar player. And we sat down and started chatting and had a couple cocktails and stuff. And I said, well, I'm going to go over to England here next week. He said, really? We're going to be touring with Santana. You want to come and hang out with the band in England? Yes.
Yes.
So, I fly all the way over to England. I had never been out of the country. I didn't know my rear end from a hole in the ground. And there I was hanging out with Earth, Wind, and Fire and Santana, pretty much hanging out with the road crew. I really got to be in the presence of Carlos Santana privately only once, but I met Billy Graham, the great producer of all Fillmore East, Fillmore West. He was upstairs in the green room. I got a chance to meet him. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm going, my life is set. I'm on my way back to the Delta Queen. I've got a job being an entertainer. And so life is good. So I spent the rest of the year, that year on the Delta Queen, and my buddy Doug Maddox, the banjo player, called me and said that he wanted to form a trio with me. So I brought him on board the Delta Queen for free. I said, I can't pay you, but you can come on for free, and I'll pay for your bar bill. Well, the first week, his bar bill at half price was $150, which is what I made in 1 week. So, but he was worth it. So we formed our own little trio. We called the Tin Rainbow Ragtimers, and we headed to St. Louis in 1976, and we spent about 9 months there. And that's where we put together a real ragtime show where each one of us would do a solo spotlight. And that was the first time I stepped out in front of the drums and did a whole 20 minutes of shtick. I did about a long drum solo, and I would go out into the audience and play on the glasses like I'd learned back from Pete Fountain's thing. And I would get up on the bar, I'd walk down the bar, start tapping on glasses, and I would find a glass that was almost full of somebody's cocktail, and I would pick it up and I would tap it, and I would say, do you hear that tone? Do you hear that little tone? Well, that tone is there because the volume of liquid in it makes it that pitch. So let's see. And then I would drink some of it. I go, see, it went up. And let me see, I'm going to go, can it go higher? And I'm taking, see, it's going to, and then I go, and I would drink the whole glass. And I'd say, I drank out of notes. Oh dear, get this guy a drink and put it on that guy's tab. And then I would come back on the drum, and I would go up and I would tell a story on the Delta Queen. Studman Hinckley, he owned the Delta Queen. Studman Hinckley had come in with some of his friends, and I was sitting on the stage talking to them, just schmoozing them up, and then, how you doing and whatever. And he said, I see that guitar back there. You want to sing us a little song? I said, well, sure. So I pulled out the guitar and I sang, "Oh, Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County and by the Green River where your paradise lays? I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking Mr. Peabody's coal trains have hauled it away." And I ended the song. I was very happy. I was trying to be as cool as Bob Dylan was. I wasn't. And Mr. Hinckley said, "I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends. This is Mr. and Mrs. Peabody." Oh, hi. And Mrs. Peabody said, "That's really cool. I didn't know somebody wrote a song about us."
So our next question is, do you think you have a particular style?
I wish that I had a style like something you could hook on, like Rodney Dangerfield, "Don't Get No Respect," or Joan Rivers, "Can We Talk?" Roseanne Barr, anything about a housewife. My friends William and Reed, the Indian and the white guy, they can get away with anything politically incorrect because the Indian can say, and then the white guy can respond, and they're brilliant with their comedy. So I suppose, just like Figgy, I always go back to my roots, being from Greencastle, Indiana, the land of opportunity, if you're a tractor. So that's my safe zone. But to come up with straight stand-up, I was never a monologist, meaning I come out like on Tonight Show and plant my feet and deliver 5 minutes, even though I did just do 5 minutes on the Huckabee TV show, which is on my website if you want to check that out. It was a solid 5 minutes, and I was pretty proud that I was able to hit it right on the money. Isn't that funny? I was more concerned about the time I was doing rather than the response. But so I interspersed my act with musical stuff, and I lead in or lead out with something that would be entertaining, be it playing the bones, playing the jaw harp, playing the guitar, playing the washboard, playing the drums, playing my hands. Oh yeah, I got that one. And a little ham bone here, a little tap dancing, a little whatever it takes to fill that time. When I'd work on the cruise ships, they want 2 45-minute shows, 2 different 45-minute shows. That's a lot of material.
Yes.
So I really stretch out on the musical stuff. So some would say that's cheating. I just say I'm getting paid to deliver laughs and entertainment. So I step out there and give them everything that I got. So yeah,
that's not cheating. Music. The fact that both of you are so musical is amazing.
Yeah.
And that off the top of your heads, and Figgy turns into Louis Armstrong in the drop of a hat. I mean, it's amazing.
That's my brother's Figgy.
Well, Dicky, you taught me a long time ago. Whenever I was learning how to do balloon animals or whatever, you said that's just another trick in your trick bag. Just keep all this stuff and you'll be able to pull it out whenever you need it. And boy, it sure has worked for me. And I appreciate that information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Katie, isn't that a principle of clowning? Like, never be boring. Just keep doing something. And if what you're doing isn't working, you move to something else.
Yeah. I mean, that's my principle.
I got a chance to play for 3 months, 2 shows a night, 6 nights a week, drums with Jerry Van Dyke in his nightclub act.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow.
We were at Lake Tahoe and Reno in the lounge. And there was that was like a master's course in comedy, because he had to go out there and do 45 minutes, no matter whether it's 3 drunk Marines in the audience or whether it's a full house. And I got a chance to really watch a true professional work. And he, as well as Bob Newhart, had I think it's just the way that they are, but Tommy Smothers is the same way too. He's a friend of mine, he and Dicky. And Tommy just, he just kind of talked, because when you're talking to Tommy and you're just he just kind of keeps kind of stammers, kind of, and he truly, Tommy, if he's when he gets stuck, he's stuck. He's going. One time we were working. This is so crazy to think of. I'm such big fans of the Smothers Brothers, and all of a sudden I end up opening for them out in North Carolina in a theater that was built right next to a grade school. So it was probably a performing arts theater that was built next to the grade school that they would use for whatever, and probably the surrounding schools would use it as well. But our dressing rooms were the kindergarten and first grade class rooms. So the little desks, little chairs and stuff. Yeah. So, the teacher's desk, we could, sit there at the teacher's desk. And I mean, those guys were in a room and I was in another room. And so here they go from San Francisco, all the beautiful nightclubs and TV shows and stuff. Here we are stuck in a first grade changing to go on. But I said to Tommy, I said, Tommy, I've got a couple bottles of wine up in the room afterwards if you're interested. And he said, thank God there's another alcoholic out here. But Tommy, he starts, and Jerry Van Dyke, he just kind of kept, he was stand. He would keep the thought pattern going. He would say, Jerry say, I don't have any timing. I got no timing. He said, even when I was a little kid, my brother and I were sitting on the floor, and my dad came in and said, one of you is going to be Dick. Which one of it is going to be? He said, my brother stood up first. See, I could have been Dick Van Dyke. I just wasn't quick enough. See, I just got no timing.
Have you ever heard Bob Newhart's story about there was a director that, I forget what movie it was, but was trying to get him not to stammer.
Did he do a routine on it?
Yeah, it's in his biography. This director
Oh.
comes up and tells him he wants him to deliver the line without stammering. And he says, "Do you realize that this stammer got me a house in Beverly Hills?"
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah.
shut down the director and let him continue on.
Are you still in the Guinness Book of World Records, Dicky?
The record fell. I'm not sure how many years ago, but I'm pretty sure for over 25 years I was in the Guinness Book of World Records because of the Golden Horseshoe Review at Disneyland. That was the show that I was took Wally Boke's place as the comic in the show. That's where I met my sweet wife Claudia. She was one of the can-can dancers in the show.
Aw.
Oh,
So what was your title in the Guinness
Well,
Book?
I was billed as myself, which would never happen now at Disney because they're so promote from within. But my 8x10 was outside on the billboard. There was an oil painting of me and Fulton Burley and Betty Taylor on the outside, and there were big posters hanging around inside. If I can't, anyway, I've got some of those. I can send you some pictures, whatever. I mean, they really promoted me big time, and Michael Eisner had to be the guy that sanctioned me to take Wally Boke's place because it was a pretty it was a high profile spot at Disneyland. I had my own dressing room with my name on the door,
Mhm.
and it was kind of embarrassing. I had to leave my band that I was so it was like a band of brothers. It was Doug Maddox was on the banjo, John Jorgensen was on guitar and soprano sax, Charlie Warren was on the bass saxophone and string bass. We played bluegrass in the morning and Dixieland in the afternoon. And so like overnight, all of a sudden I went from a dressing room with 10 people in it over to my own dressing room with my name on it, the door. So fortunately, those guys are still my dear friends. They had, firm reason to just flush me down the.
If you're on a cruise ship and there's language barriers, and how do you go about, getting laughs out of people that have no idea what the heck you're saying?
Well, you have to be visual. That's most of my act is very high energy. If you don't understand what I'm saying, at least you could enjoy, or hopefully you would enjoy me on stage. Doug Maddox, my best friend, mentioned his name, the banjo player. He said, "Dicky, you're the kind of guy that come out on stage, take a chair, sit down, and sit there for half an hour, and people would like you." And another great friend of mine, Chris Bliss, he's a juggler, really sharp, brilliant comedian and stuff. And we would go do showcases together, and he'd say, "Dicky, you suck all the goodness out of the room." So, and Doug Maddox tells a story about one of his friends on a cruise ship, and he wasn't getting any laughs for 40 minutes, no laughs. And he came off the stage, and Doug said, "You were unbelievable. You weren't getting laughs, but you weren't panicking. You weren't doing anything." He said, "Look at this." And the guy took off and he was soaked. And he said, "All I was trying to do was make them like me." So the performance for me, that's almost 80% of the show. It's as long as they're liking what you're doing. As Sheldon Keller, my great dear friend from the great comedy writer on the Sid Caesar Hour and the like, he said, I can hear smiles.
Mm.
I hear smiles.
How much have your audiences changed in the years and decades you've been doing this?
It remains the same, yet now you have people that are only listening to what they don't want to hear, which is a real shame. The comedy clubs have kind of been, now it's not the audience comes to see a show, it's the audience comes to do battle with the comic. They want to heckle or whatever. And fortunately, I've never been in too many of those situations where people want to battle with me, but I just pretty much keep on going. So if people, the minute that you stop and recognize somebody that says something, whether it's brilliant or stupid, you turn the show right over to that person. And
right.
Jay Leno said, "Never venture into the audience unless you have all the answers." And that sure remains true for that. At Disneyland, if people would want to talk to me because they'd say, "Remember, we were here a year ago To this day, my son's birthday, you brought him up on stage and you did a magic trick with him and whatever, and you just stand there and listen when they keep going. And my grandmama's here and grandpa's here, and you see we got some grandkids back here, and you just let them keep talking. Finally, they stop. They run out of gas, and I go, anything else you want to share with us here today? And that would get a big laugh, and then I would go on. And if somebody's tried to get brutal with me or something, I'd always say, no, look, I get paid to be an idiot. You have no excuse. Now be quiet. That would normally work. One of the more embarrassing moments I've just remembered, we lived in Garden Grove, Claudia and I, and the first show I think was at 10:40 in the morning. So I was working at the Rice's Brothers nightclub down in Fountain Valley. So if I wasn't at Disneyland, I was on my way to Hollywood, try to work at the Improv or whatever. So late nights. So anyway, I was on my way to Disneyland, driving a little fast, and I got pulled over, and it was very scary because I was barely going to make the show anyway, and now I've got to get a ticket. So I went to traffic school, and so a couple weeks later, I'm on stage at Disneyland, and I would always ask, "Is there anybody here from the Midwest?" And this guy in the middle of the audience, of course, it's dark, I can't see the face of the people. I hear this, "I know you," and so I said, "Well, what? How do you think you know me?" He goes, "We were in traffic school last Saturday." Yeah, you were really funny. It's just like, oh gosh, how embarrassing is that? It just takes that the third wall out of there, and here's the real person, Dick Hardwick. He's a violator.
Have you ever totally bombed?
Oh,
and when it happens, how hard is it to recover?
Probably on both hands, I can count the number of times that I've gone, that it hasn't gone well. But the main reason for those, it would be the logistics of the room. Either in front of an audience that doesn't speak English, or you're too far away from the audience. I did 23 state fairs with Reba McEntire. Yay!
Oh, wow.
But on the other side of a racetrack from the audience. Just me. And I would have to go out when the sun was right in the eyes of the audience, and you couldn't see the video magnification screens on the other side. So it was out there all alone. All you have to do, I just would go out there, I would plant my feet, and I would say, this has worked 1,000 times before. Why shouldn't it work now? And you just try not to panic. So, but yeah, it's pretty tough when you really, you're not getting the audience, because you're out there and you're naked. I mean, you're not physically naked, but you're naked. Your whole self is to try to make people happy. And if they're not buying it, or they're not, it's sad. Sometimes I would do a stag cruise. Then you have to pull those one-liners out that you would never, that would actually clear a state if they knew you had said that. But you got to fight fire with fire in those situations.
What's the difference between working with Reba McEntire and working with KFC?
When you're working with Reba, it's not your job to put people on seats. There's a different way to say that. But yeah. When you're working for KFC, then it's really it's difficult in another manner, because there is no reason for those people to be sitting in an audience watching you perform. They did not come to see you. They came to a meeting. Normally the CEO is beating them up about wanting more product, more money for the company. And here's our entertainment, Dick Hart. One time, I'm working in Reno. My friend Bobby D, who was a magician and a producer, director in Reno, had me perform for, it was the International Garage Door Manufacturers Association.
Wow. And you were the opening act.
The stage was about 6 feet high, but in front of it was a dance floor. You could put probably 500 people on it. And then the audience was out, and they were all like not facing the stage. They're facing each other, which is bad enough to begin with. So the vice president of the company got up, or the association, and said, as you all know, our president, John, last night during dinner had a tragic heart attack, and I'm sad to say that he passed this afternoon, and his family and are with him at the hospital now, and we would just like to have everybody have a moment of silence for our president. And now here's our entertainment, Dick Hardwick. So what do? I walk very slowly out on the stage. I'm walking out on the side, so the audience is over there. I'm walking, and I wait until it's absolutely silent. You could hear a pin drop because the audience is now going, "Oh God, what's he going to say?" And I turned around and I went, "Can you get the audience down just a little bit more before I go on, please?" And I walked back off the stage, which got a big laugh. And so then I walked back out and I said, "Well, come on now, let's all have a good time. It's time to have fun. Let's have a party." So I go on like that. At the Bohemian Grove, Jimmy Buffett came on, and he just tore it up. It was probably 1,700 guys around, and he just tore it up. And Jimmy Buffett, first time he came to the Grove, he just tore it up. And so as he's coming off the stage, the sire, Eric Boardman, said, "And now coming to the stage is a great Bohemian. He has started his comedy career at Disneyland. Here's Dick Hardwick." And so people are still standing, applauding Jimmy Buffett. They're applauding. They're going crazy. And so once again, I remember that moment. I just walked out real slow until everybody got settled and it got absolutely quiet. And this is one of those moments where these are your peers sitting out there, and they're really going, "Oh, what's Hardwick going to do? How's he going to pull himself out of this?" Following Jimmy Buffett, standing ovation. And I waited until it got absolutely clear or quiet, and I turned and I looked into the audience and I said, "I don't know how I'm going to save this show." And it killed. And as I came off the stage, Jimmy Buffett was there with open arms to welcome me off the stage and give me a big hug. So that was really cool. Anyway, so you see, sometimes you have to turn a negative into a positive in a situation like that. Jerry Van Dyke would this just popped in my mind, just something that it's your what ifs, what if this happens or whatever. When we were in the lounge there, they made the bar was at the back, so they made drinks back there. And so whenever they would turn on the blender and like that, he would stop because it was so distracting that was going on. So the blender, he'd be going, "Well, and the blender would come on. So he'd take the microphone, he'd go, while the blender's going on, and the blender's going on, and then they turn the blender on, and he'd go, "This razor isn't worth a shick." Was that not brilliant? Brilliant.
Oh, that is magnificent. What advice would you give somebody starting out in comedy today?
Get up on stage and do it. You'll find who you are on the stage, and start out with just a couple lines. If you have something that you can recite, something that you learned verbatim, a poem, a limerick. There once was a man from Find who fell through an outhouse and died. The next week his brother fell through another and now lay interred side by side.
That is brilliant. I'm a sanitary engineer with 35 years experience. First time I heard that joke, and I can't believe it.
Well, there you go. You got to save some of these. So, you don't put them out there for public display. So it's those are the gems that you always, you save back. But how am I doing, Figgy?
Doing great, man. So who do you look up to, or who have you looked up to over the years of your comedy?
Well, of course, all the greats. George Carlin, who was on a level of his own, by himself, as far as he was brilliant, and he and all Richard Pryors and the Eddie Murphys and whatever, they decided to go beyond a normal person's ego, meaning not thinking that you're really cool, but how far will you go to get a laugh? Robin Williams, one of my friends, Howard Albrecht, who was a writer on the Mork and Mindy show, said that he would come in and he would do anything. He would take his pants down and get on the leather couch and go at the leather couch to get the laugh. That's how far he would go. My ego or my I've always, especially because of the Disneyland hook, you just can't get out there and start off with an F-bomb here and F-bomb there. I never can use an F-bomb really on the stage unless you're in a situation where you have to. It's a stag thing,
and you got plenty of those. I've heard you many a times off stage.
Well, sure, if they say you got to have a little bit of everything to round out your life there as far as comedy is concerned.
I remember the first gig you set me up on. You had me go to Las Vegas and open for was it Bobby Rydell?
Bobby Rydell, that's right. I remembered that just the other day.
Volare.
Yeah.
And you told me go out there and do 5 minutes, and your material sucked.
How much time did you have to do?
It was like 5 minutes.
Oh, you only had to do 5 minutes. Well, yeah.
Felt like 2 hours, but I completely bombed in front of 700-800 people. But oh well.
Yeah, you got to get your first one in there.
You still paid me.
I remember another time that sometimes the people in the audience will put an ad or will scare the audience. The reason I bring this up, at Disneyland, one day there was a convention at the Anaheim Convention Center. It was a Catholic get together or whatever. All the Catholic priests and nuns and everybody came. It was a religious retreat, and so the park was full of priests and nuns in their normal wear, the white collars and the black suits, and the women in the habits with the things and everything. So I come out on the first show, and in the front row there's 3 tables across, and you could seat 6 people. So there are 6, 12, maybe some whatever. So at least almost 18 nuns sitting right in front. Yeah, you can imagine with the audience, because there's a balcony and everybody's looking down, and there's at least 350 people in the room. And these nuns are just up front. And I get up, of course, I come into the show and I shoot off a gun, a couple shots in the dark, which gets everybody's attention to begin with. And when I finally get up onto the stage, I go into my routine and I look down and I see the nuns are there, and I can tell that the audience is not reacting to anything I'm doing because the nuns, oh gosh, is he going to offend the nuns? So what did I do? I stopped and I paused, that pregnant pause, which sucks everybody in. I looked down at the nuns and I said, so what do you girls do? And they laughed. And I said, well, you all shop at the same clothing store, that's for sure. And then I went on. But I took the pressure off of the audience, because they weren't going to budge until I recognized that I know that there's nuns and they're in the audience, and I'm not going to offend them.
If people want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
DickHardwick.com. That's www.dickhardwick.com. My manager lives down in Nashville, Tennessee, Steve Tolman. So if his name comes up or whatever, that's the reason for that.
So your website is www.dickhardwick.com, yeah?
Right, yeah.
And your agent is, what's his name again?
Well, he's my manager.
Your
there's
manager.
a difference between a manager and an agent is only legally to give 10%, but a manager can get all he wants. I mean, there's a great story about the colonel that managed Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
He took 50%. of Elvis's. And they said, why? Why would you take 50% of Elvis's money? He said, at best, he's going to leave me. How about see?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So he's my manager. So he's not my agent, but
What's
he
his
pretty much
name?
acts as a manager, agent, whatever, and books gigs and stuff like that.
What's his name?
Steve Tolman, Tolman, Steve Tolman. He and I first worked together at Walt Disney World in Florida back in 1979 or 80, and he was the boy singer, the male singer, the Irish tenor guy at the Diamond Horseshoe at Disneyland. Matter of fact, on my website, there's a whole video of me doing. That's the first time that I was out of the gate as a full-time comedian being paid at Disneyland. And I look at that and I go, how in the world did I remember all those jokes and string those together? But I did. Youth is a wonderful thing. And that's how I know Steve. So we've known each other since then. And he was able to get me on several TV shows back, the Statler Brothers show and Louise Mandrell telecasts and stuff. So I said, why don't you just manage me? He said, okay. So
what's some other TV that you've been on? You did Star Search.
Well, I was on Star Search. I was on. I won, and then the next show I lost. So I was a comedy champion for 1 week. So I always say I was a comedy champion on Star Search. And won
the Gong Show twice.
Two times, yeah. I have
two times.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
whoa.
You have to look real deep in my resume to find that one. But anyway. But our brother Denny, he had a couple of friends that were producers back in the day, and there was a couple TV shows that we were able to go on. I think one was called Leslie Uggams and
yeah, remember that one?
Make a Dream Come True or something like that. But the Statler Brothers TV show, the Huckabee TV show, I've been on that on camera once. I'd go down and do warm up every once in a while. It's kind of strange. They'll pay you for coming down to do warm up, but they won't pay you for being on camera. So they'll pay for your travel, but they won't travel. The Grand Ole Opry.
Oh yeah,
nice, yeah.
I've been on that several times. They haven't called for the last couple of years. I say, was it something I ate? I don't know. So, as far as TV shows, Disney did a whole thing on me called the Family Channel, and that was about me taking the show as the comic in the Golden Horseshoe. But movies that I've been in, it's the first. When I first came to California, our brother Denny had already come out and had made some connections with Local 47 with the they called a music steward. He would go out and cover, say, the Tonight Show and make sure that everybody was happy and that they were treating them and giving them their breaks and all that stuff. So Jerry, can't remember his last name, but he got us on a gig to sideline. If you play a musical instrument in a movie, you're not going to be playing it live because they have to have it pre-recorded, then you act like you're playing. So they call that sidelining. So somehow he got us on this movie called The In-Laws with Peter Falk and Alan Arkin. So this has been 1977, I think it was, or 1977 or 78. And the last scene of this movie, do you remember? Did you see The In-Laws? If you haven't seen the movie, it is absolutely hysterical. The movie is worth it. And you probably would not be able to see me or Denny. Denny was playing the clarinet down in the last scene, the Glendale Symphony Orchestra under the direction of Carmen Dragon, who is just this marvelous looking, tawny skinned, pouty nosed, silver hair conductor doing the wedding march as Alan Arkin and Peter Falk come in a hot air balloon. And so they're dropping down into this wedding scene and there's probably 300 people, extras and everything. So in the symphony orchestra was like 90 pieces. So I got to play the cymbals in the back. So I got to act like I was playing the cymbals. So here we are, there's probably 400 people on the set, 300 people, the symphony, the cameras all set up, the director's up there. And so they're bringing them down whatever. And so we're playing da 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 da. So the orchestra looking at da da, and I'm with the cymbals da da. I'm not crashing da 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 da. Da, 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 da. And so I'm looking where the camera, I'm going, can the camera see me? Da, 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 da. I crashed the cymbals. And the director goes, cut! Oh, God, I wanted to crawl under the timpani. So they had to reset everything, pull the crane up and pull everything except because I crashed the cymbals, which screwed up the audio. So that was the first movie I was in. The next movie, Conrad Janis, who was Mindy's father on the Mork and Mindy show.
Yep.
If you go back and look at the TV, he also played the trombone, and his love was to play Dixieland trombone, and I played drums for him since 1977. So we buried him and his beloved wife just about 6 or 7 months ago, and I played every Thursday with him. And he was a dear friend. Well, he on Mork and Mindy, the director of Mork and Mindy was Gary Marshall, and Gary Marshall's daughter Penny Marshall was on many TV shows. So Gary was going to direct Jackie Gleason's last motion picture with Tom Hanks, and the movie was called Nothing in Common. And Jackie Gleason had a favorite Dixieland band, which was us, the Beverly Hills Enlisted Jazz Band, and so Conrad was able to get us into the movie. But we didn't get screen credit. We only got credit for the Beverly Hills Enlisted Jazz Band as themselves, which meant I got $150 one day and $150 for the next day. Anyway, but the cool thing was the Jackie Gleason was going to be dancing out and around, and there was a scene where he found out that his leg, because of diabetes, started to have gangrene, and that was a very intricate part of the movie at that moment. And so he's dancing around in front of us. At the premiere of the film, at the end of our thing on the movie, and we did record this music live, and then we played synced back to it playing in the movie. At the end of the Dixieland song, there's a 4-bar tag, big ending. So the musical director, or the music editor came up to me. He said, "Are you the drummer with Conrad?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I have to apologize." I said, "Apologize for what?" "Oh, did you cut me out?" He said, "No, I had to add 2 beats to your drum solo at the end of the thing to get Gleason around the desk so that it would match up. So it's going to sound like you really screwed up your drum solo." And I went, you're apologizing for adding? Normally they cut stuff out." But sure enough, at the end, when I cut it in half, I went ra-ta-ta, ra-ta-ta, la-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, da-ta-ta, da-ta-ta-ta, da-ta-ta-ta. And it really did sound like I screwed it up. But I don't know that I've ever told anybody that story. So you're the first ones to ever know that.
Yeah.
So, Dicky, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, well,
this has been wonderful.
Lots of fun. Good to see my buddy.
I got a feeling we've only covered to like 1992. There's a bunch of stories still left there.
Oh, there's so much to talk about, and I'd be happy to talk again. I don't know whether I can help anybody. As you said, what would you say to somebody that was going to go out and try to do comedy? It's you just got to get up there and you got to go out there and do it, and you have to go out. It's easy to make your friends and family laugh, but you try to make a total stranger laugh, and I'm more afraid of friends and family. Trying to make Figgy laugh after he's heard every joke that I've done told inside out. So to get him to laugh again, it's pretty tough to do. But you get out in front of a stranger, you're the snake in the grass, and you can go and bite him. Where I can't be the snake in the grass because Figgy knows me too well. And so as far as getting up, the audiences are so crazy now. It's been a long time since I've been in a comedy club. Yeah. And I'm not really sure what the temperature is in there now, but I'm glad I'm 69 and out in the field chewing on my cud now rather than trying to break in at the Improv. It's I had actually had to go to therapy for about 3 years trying to figure out why I couldn't even get the commercial of the guy in a bananas suit. I couldn't even get that. but I only booked one other movie that I had was speaking line in a movie called Reckless Kelly. The comedian from Australia, Yahoo Serious, was the director, producer, and actor. And it's this really weird film. But my only line in the movie, I played the nice studio guard. See, the nice studio guard. And when I went into the casting room where we were getting our costumes and stuff, and they had pictures of the guys that were supposed to be the villains, caterers, and whatever, and they had my picture up there, nice studio guard. And you looked at my picture and you went, look, I fit that perfectly. Anyway, my only line was, Reckless Kelly pulls up at the movie studio in his car with his buddy, and I looked out, and my only line was, "Good day, Mr. Kelly." That was it. The morning of the shooting, I went up and walked for about an hour and practiced, "Good day, Mr. Kelly. Good day, Mr. Kelly. Good day, Mr. Kelly. Good day, Mr. Kelly." I'll say this. Good day, Mr. Kelly. Good day, Mr. Kelly. And that's it. So that was my big line, and I did get paid scale for that. So anyway.
That's good.
Very nice.
Thank you for all your advice and for meeting with us.
Advice, but,
you did. You
sure
did.
gave me a lot of stories.
You gave so many amazing stories. You are part of the generation of some of the beginnings of comedy through people like Robin Williams through today. And the times have changed a little bit, and the audiences might be a little bit more challenging now.
I think that they're more informed, and they're more not necessarily radical, but they're more know what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And and the availability of so many, everything is available on YouTube. So everything old is new again can't happen. As Jay Leno always said, never do your act on TV, because then you have nothing to do in live performance. And he was so right. So Steve Tolman, my manager, has but he's booked Jay many, many times, pretty much word for word, the same act that he does in corporate. And so, it's a really smart guy. A joke machine he was, or is.
Do you have a last favorite quote that you could leave us with?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Always remember, air raid is diarrhea spelled backwards.
That's perfect.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So am I released from sequestration?
Yes. That point right there, because that's so amazing. Thank you for joining us for episode 86 with Dicky Hardwick and our hosts Jim Bob Williams, Katie B, and James Figgy Hardwick. Thank you very much. This has been Laughbox, brought to you by the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.
And we'll see you next time.